No problem. If I can add, so I know I shared one lesson, which was the divine calling within each one of us, because each one of us has come to this world with a purpose. So that's the first thing. The second I would want to say is talk about discipline. Because we all, when we want to start something new or whatever we want to work on, we get very excited because we're like enthusiastic. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But over time, that's an emotion. It's going to last temporarily. Yeah. And I think also it comes down to how we are as human beings, right? We become so used to our old familiar ways of doing things that whenever we have to do something new, which again is something that's a change, it's kind of hard for the brain to process. And that's why at that point, it's where we really need to depend, for example, on external factors. It could be a friend, it could be your calendar to remind you that I need to take this action. And again, I also believe in asking the divine for help, because that's that moment where I'm like, okay, I need to take a new action, but it just seems very hard, very uncomfortable because I'm doing something different from what I always did. Yes, I deeply believe in teamwork makes the dream work. I can't do everything by myself. The more people we are, the more ideas come in, the more creativity, and the better the solution or service we can provide to our clients.
Okay, hello and welcome. Joining me today is Zameena from Mineola, New York, and she is the actual coach of Fit for Future, and she is here to tell me a little bit more today about her work. So, Zameena, what do you do with just to start with Fit for Future here?
Yes, sure. So I'm a life and work coach for Fit for Future Formula, and my whole purpose of my whole work evolves around helping people find their true selves, and also in that process be able to maintain a holistic balance. Because many times, individuals in the process of working or whatever they're doing, they kind of lose that holistic well-being. So as a coach, my goal is to help individuals identify that they need to live that balanced life, but at the same time also identifying that they have three main clients in their lives, and their first main client is themselves. So everybody has to take good care of themselves first, and then their other clients is their work and also their social profile. So in terms of being a life and work coach, my whole goal or process is to first identify where they are in terms of their holistic well-being, and help them identify the three main clients in their lives, which we most of the time forget is first is ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, I find that to be true as well. I like the way you put that. It's important to take care of yourself, resource yourself, I think almost. So how do you help your clients do that then?
So, in terms of being able to, first of all, explain the concept to them, right, is that when we talk about work, for example, I know many times work is described as the 9 to 5 job that we have, but in reality, work involves helping other people, helping your customers. But in terms of describing who customers are, like I say, there's three main customers: yourself, your social profile, and then your work profile. So, in terms of helping individuals through that process, the first thing we do is explain this main concept of how they are their most important clients, and then we try to get an understanding of how they spend their day to day life. So, what do they do from the time they wake up to the time they sleep? To get an understanding of how much time they're spending on doing their job and how much they're actually spending doing other stuff like meeting friends, family, taking care of themselves. Once we identify those areas, then we're able to tell, okay, is a person feeling mentally, emotionally, physically overwhelmed? Identifying those areas in their mental, emotional, spiritual well being helps us then identify that, okay, is a person giving enough time to themselves or not? And for everybody, me time is a different thing. For some people, going out for a walk is what they need. Some people like to journal. Some of them would prefer meditation. So whatever it is, first of all, getting an understanding of how they are feeling in all three sectors, which is physical, emotional, spiritual, and getting an understanding of how they spend their 24 hours day-to-day basis gives us an idea of whether an individual needs to give more time to themselves or whether they're doing perfectly fine.
Oh, that's great. So, how did you get started studying all this? I mean, that you got this down to a science now.
That's a good question. So I'll share a little bit more about myself. So I was born and raised in East Africa, in Tanzania, and I grew up there seeing the marginalization of people who had special needs or people with disabilities. And growing up, I always had this passion that I wanted to help these individuals live a more independent life in whatever route possible. I really wanted to do that. So as I grew up, I realized the importance that communication plays in our life. And given that I saw many individuals back in Tanzania who had speech impairments, other type of speech delays, when I moved to the US 6 years ago, I decided to do my bachelor's in speech therapy. So I pursued that route and I got my bachelor's in that program. And when I completed that, I realized that there was something that my inner calling was telling me to do, which was to still continue that route of speech therapy, but add other elements to it. So after I completed my bachelor's, I did a course in UX UI design because I wanted to get more familiar with technology because that's the world we are living in right now. And when I was doing that program, I had to work on a project. And given my passion around being able to sustain yourself, being able to live a balanced life, I did my whole project around self awareness and how it is important for an individual to understand themselves by obviously doing personal reflections, but also getting insights from other people. Because when we look at ourselves, we might look at ourselves in a certain way, but then there's feedback that people around us can give us. It could be areas of growth, or it could be areas that they're acknowledging our strengths that we have. And when I did that project, I really realized that I was leaning towards the path of becoming a coach, which was around self awareness, becoming a better version of yourself. So after I completed that program, I myself was coached by someone. And he was a very inspiring person in my life. His name is Gerard. And after he coached me, and I just felt that I needed to become a coach. That's something that really excites me, is to help individuals become a better version of themselves, to help them understand themselves better. So being his coachee, he then trained me to become a coach, which is his company Fit for Future Formula. And that's where I work right now. And again, my whole purpose, my whole mission is to help individuals to become the next best version of themselves. I like to use the next best because we're constantly evolving as human beings, and there is no best route. It's only the next best route that we can think of as we are evolving in our own consciousness as well. So, this is a little bit about my own journey into becoming a coach. But I'd like to add that I'm also the founder of Divine Space, which is again a company that or has the same mission of empowering individuals to become the next best version of themselves. But this is more tailored towards Islamic teachings as well. So I teach young children to read the Quran in Arabic and also understand what they are reading, but adding that whole coaching element to it, where now they're using the Quran, the book of guidance, to become a better version of themselves. So they're reading a holy book and also growing as individuals. So it's self development and Arabic learning fused together.
Wow, that sounds really powerful. You must get some great results then with that. I mean, what are your typical clients like? It sounds like you could have all types of clients.
So, in terms of, I'll again divide this into Fit for Future and Divine Space. So, right now for Divine Space, because I'm teaching Quran to younger kids, so my youngest student is around 3 years old, and I teach virtually in a very interactive manner. And the oldest student I have is 16. So, my focus on my Divine Space clients is to obviously help them read Arabic and read with understanding, but at the same time also get to understand themselves better, what excites them, what is something they're struggling with right now. It could be school, it could be just mental, emotional challenges. And again, help them identify that they have three main clients: themselves, their social, and work profile. I feel like giving them that sense from a younger age is going to help them make better decisions for themselves and also be able to understand what priorities they want to set for themselves. So that's more in terms of Divine Space, it's more the younger population. But for Fit for Future Formula, actually, I work with adults, and that's the age category I want to work with. Because growing up, I've seen how culture can really limit, like I'm talking about Indian culture because I come from an Indian background. I've seen how cultures can really limit women from growing. So I really want to help that older generation that went through that, trauma, and help them realize that it's not too late and they can still work on themselves and live a purposeful and meaningful life.
You've just recently started Divine Space out of the work that you've been doing with Fit for Future. Then
So actually, Divine Space was formed before I joined Fit for Future. The company was founded about a year ago, and again, that came up to my passion of wanting to teach the Quran, because I believe that that's a holy book that Muslims use for guidance and for spiritual healing. So my passion of wanting to teach and the excitement I get when I just teach younger kids was something I wanted to do. But the question was, how do I change it into a sustainable business model? So again, with the guidance of a coach, who's the company that I work for right now, we were able to create a business model that can allow me to teach the Quran and include those elements of coaching into it, and at the same time sustain a living from it. And a few months after I started Divine Space, I enrolled into the coaching program myself and became a coach. So I just received my certification about 2 months ago, and I'm so excited to also be on this journey of being a life coach.
that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's really awesome. Um, so what have been some of the biggest lessons maybe that you've learned yourself from your coaching and working with people?
Sure. So I'm going to actually share some insights from just my own personal journey and in terms of being a coach. So I am a deep believer on this topic around divine intuition. I feel like whatever step I've taken in my life has always been around what I felt my heart was telling me to do. And whenever I've listened to my heart, I felt that it has always led me to a better way and it has opened doors of more opportunities. And I know that sometimes we all deal with this where the heart is telling you to do something, but you may have external factors telling you to do something else. But I am a deep believer of listening to what your heart is telling you. Until today, when I make decisions, yes, there is the analytical part of understanding, okay, what's happening here, what's happening there, but then really depending on the divine calling inside that's telling you to take action on something and to do it that route. So, one of the things that I like to do is when I'm struggling with making a decision, for example, or when I'm feeling very fearful, I like to just close my eyes, take a deep breath, and actually have a conversation with the divine and tell him that this is how I'm feeling and what's the route for me to take. I don't know what to do. And then just being able to visualize that there is this inner light inside me that's right here. It's there to help me, and it just gives me that sense of ease, a sense of relief. And I just feel like once I open my eyes, I know exactly what decision I want to take. So, this process has really helped me in every step of my life, especially when fear comes in, because overcoming fear is a very challenging emotion to deal with, right? But we all have to go through it. So, one of the main advice I would like to give is listen to what your heart is telling you. That's your divine calling, and just take action on that.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's some really great insight there. Um,
No problem. If I can add, so I know I shared one lesson, which was the divine calling within each one of us, because each one of us has come to this world with a purpose. So that's the first thing. The second I would want to say is talk about discipline. Because we all, when we want to start something new or whatever we want to work on, we get very excited because we're like enthusiastic. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But over time, that's an emotion. It's going to last temporarily, but then it's the discipline and consistency that helps us keep going on that journey. So being able to identify, first of all, what excites you, what motivates you, what you feel makes you want to wake up every morning, identifying that, and then being able to acknowledge that, okay, that's what's leading me to excitement, but now I need to be disciplined and take the steps that I need to take to create that life for myself.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I find over and over again in my own life how key discipline is, the what a difference it makes. Um, so this is something that you've been able to help your clients discover as well?
Yes. So I'm going to actually share some more insights with the younger kids that I teach at Divine Space because I really spend a lot of time with them. Is, for example, one of the main struggles I have is homework. Doing their homework is like the biggest challenge for them. But being able to help them identify, okay, they get excited about doing a specific subject in school, but for them to be able to grow in that subject, they will have to be disciplined. And one of the key ways I like to do it is using Google Calendars or Apple Calendars and just allocating a time every day that I'm going to use to work on XYZ. For younger kids, it's usually homework, and that has been very helpful for them to just put it on the calendar that, okay, this is my time to do this. So I have to stop everything else that I'm doing and just focus on the task at hand. And for me personally, that's also been very helpful because, again, there are times when you don't feel like working on something, but you know you have to do it. And just having it out on the calendar or having a reminder or putting an alarm on my phone just helps me to say, take a step back and work on what I need to work on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a great tip for sure. And there's so many calendar tools available. I feel like if you just pick one and use it, it's like people just don't use them.
Yeah. And I think also it comes down to how we are as human beings, right? We become so used to our old familiar ways of doing things that whenever we have to do something new, which again is something that's a change, it's kind of hard for the brain to process. And that's why at that point, it's where we really need to depend, for example, on external factors. It could be a friend, it could be your calendar to remind you that I need to take this action. And again, I also believe in asking the divine for help because that's that moment where I'm like, okay, I need to take a new action. But it just seems very hard, very uncomfortable because I'm doing something different from what I always did. But depending on calendars, asking the divine for help has been very instrumental on my journey.
So as you look ahead for this year coming up, what are you most excited about?
Wow, that's a good question. So, in terms of excitement, I'm definitely excited to get work with more clients, especially older ones for Fit for Future formula, where I really want to help. I know I mentioned working with the women population, but I'm open to working with any gender, just to help them identify that it's never too late. So I'm excited to get more clients, work with them. And so far, I've been working virtually. So I'm excited to do some in person coaching sessions because I know right now I haven't been in New York all the time, so it's been a little bit challenging to have in-person sessions. So I've been doing it virtually, but I'm excited to have the clients come for an in-person experience, which I believe is a totally different experience than doing it virtually because you feel the presence of the other person who's sitting right there with you, there to validate how you're feeling and there to help you craft your journey towards becoming a better version of yourself. So I'm definitely excited about that. And in terms of Divine Space, we're also growing. So I have another teacher that I just hired who's working with us. So excited to help him grow, empower him, coach him, and also increase our number of clients so that we can make a global impact in the lives of younger children as well.
Wow, great, great. So you're adding adding more hands to the ship there. That's great.
Yes, I deeply believe in teamwork makes the dream work. I can't do everything by myself. The more people we are, the more ideas come in, the more creativity, and the better the solution or service we can provide to our clients.
Awesome, awesome, great. So what's it like for a client? Where how how would I get a hold of you, and what's the program like once I get started?
So, in terms of, I'll talk about Fit for Future formula first. So, in terms of getting an appointment or booking with me, that can be done directly from the website, where you can book a session, a time that works best for you, and we can have a session. So, there are different programs available under Fit for Future formula. I'll highlight the two main that I've been working on. The first is just a walking coaching program where we take the client on a walk and do coaching together with that. So it's like you're getting physical activity. You're getting to even, talk about different things that are involved in coaching while you are doing some things that you enjoy, like walking. And one key thing that I really like about walking coaching is that many times during coaching sessions, there are uncomfortable conversations that sometimes looking at a person face to face can be hard for them to just talk about it. But when we're walking, it's like we're walking and just talking about it. So it just makes the environment more, I feel like, open to be able to express themselves and kind of even overcome that uncomfort that comes around when expressing about their past or what they're struggling with. So there is that walking and coaching program. And then the second one is the 5 step program, where that's a whole, like, kind of a journey that we begin by doing the diagnostic session, where we assess how a person is doing in terms of their physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, and try to get an understanding of who they are, what they've done so far, what is their story, and where they see themselves 1 year from now. So once that we do the diagnostic session, we get an idea of where the person is right now and where they would like to see themselves 1 year from now. And then once we have identified those areas, then we actually work on the crafting the journey itself. So during the 4 remaining sessions, we identify whatever the client wants to work on and help them craft that journey towards building the dream life that they've wanted for themselves. And one of the key tools that we use during the sessions is called the personal holistic business model U. So just like we have the business model canvas when we're starting a new business, the personal holistic business model you has now been created in a way where you see yourself as the client, and now you create that whole canvas model around helping yourself. So it's a way of holistically addressing how you can help yourself become a better version of yourself.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes. So these are the 2 main programs that I've worked on heavily in terms of working at Fit for Future formula. And yeah,
Great. So, and then what are you most excited about with Divine Space coming up? Who are you going to reach with that?
that's a great question. So, in terms of Divine Space, so obviously I have teachers joining the team. So, we're expanding, we're working with more clients right now. And one key thing that I forgot to mention earlier was the one of the motivation or inspirations that I really wanted to start even Divine Space was I felt like children who had special needs were kind of being left out in the journey of learning the Quran because there were no many resources or teachers available to help them. So, given my background and bachelor's in speech therapy, I decided to also take this route where now I'm providing, education not only to typical kids but also children who learn in different ways and cater the classes towards their learning needs. And that has been a very fulfilling experience to be able to help these kids learn how to read Arabic. So, in terms of even expanding the team, I am looking for teachers who can also do this to help children who have different types of needs and understand where the child is coming from. So, I'm definitely excited about that. And in addition to providing the service, whatever resources that Divine Space is creating to offer these interactive classes, because remember, we're working fully virtual. So the child needs to be very engaged throughout the class because everything is being done in front of a screen. And the resources that we've created so far have been working so effectively that we've had parents reach out and ask that, are we going to be able to access these resources outside of the classes itself? So we are working on publishing the resources so that teachers who are teaching in other parts of the world can also use them to create engaging experience for the kids.
Oh, neat. So it's basically a curriculum you're creating then that'll be available.
Yes, for teaching the Quran, yes, because the Quran again was revealed in Arabic. So, like myself, I'm not a native Arabic speaker. So, we have to learn how to read Arabic just like we learn how to read English. So, that's what we are working on, establishing that whole curriculum that teachers can use. Curriculums already exist, but I feel like they haven't been as engaging for the time that we live in right now, where kids are constantly looking for, screen time, ways to just interact and have fun. So we are creating resources that are more relevant to the time that we live in right now.
Nice. Excellent. So that must really help you kind of rediscover the material then as well, and almost get so much more out of it yourself, I guess, when you have to present it that way. Um, I mean, what are some of the maybe some of the things that, like, lessons or insights that you found since you've been going back through it everything again in this way and having to teach instead of learn it.
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the key things that I've really been reflecting on since I started my entrepreneurial journey has been around how it is important for us as human beings to constantly evolve because everything around us is constantly changing. So if I relate to this into education, for example, I don't necessarily agree with every approach that traditional schools are taking in teaching because if the external factors or environment are changing, then schools also need to adapt to that. And that was some element that I really wanted to bring to Islamic teaching, to learning the Quran, where the materials that are being used are constantly evolving to meet the needs of the child at this particular time. And what I provide right now is something that's relevant to what the situation is right now. 5 years from now, the resources are going to be completely different based on the advancement in technology. With so many other artificial intelligence, VR, AR, all these things coming in. I think integrating all these elements into education are so key because otherwise for kids to learn it's becoming very difficult. They don't like to learn like we did back in the day, just reading from the books, doing worksheets. That's not something that really excites them. So I feel that for me a key lesson has been that I have to be willing to change and also create those changes to facilitate the learning process for the younger kids.
Yeah, because the value is still there. It's just they're not as engaged if they see it as something old and outdated.
Exactly. Yeah, something old, outdated. And I feel like even in terms of the resource that we create at Divine Space, AI has been a huge tool that's been very helpful. I know that sometimes it can be overwhelming with the way, AI is growing exponentially and it might make us feel threatened, but I feel that AI is something that we can use to our advantage to help us do those little tasks that we, would take so long to do. Just use the creativity that we're getting from these tools and use the extra spare time that we have to work on ourselves, to become better individuals, to grow our consciousness, and also be role models for the younger kids who are, doing this learning and growing during this time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. Those are all good things for sure. Um, so is there are there other things that you didn't get to cover here in our discussion yet today that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I think maybe one or two main things. So, in terms of my role at Divine Space as an educator, I think my goal is also really to help kids to unlock their higher levels of thinking, where they're not just doing stuff that I'm asking them to do, but rather they are taking the autonomy and control of creating their own journey of learning. So, one of the key things that I feel like during the learning process is yes, there are areas where we need to guide them to help them understand the concept, but providing them with those opportunities where they can create the learning for themselves. Like, for example, create a story, design something that you would like to, gift your parents based on the learnings that you've had with your Quran journey so far. So it's more like helping them unlock those higher levels of thinking that I, as an educator, really want to be able to provide the kids. Because if we look at the real world, real life, once we get a job, once we start working, it's really up to us to make the decisions. Nobody is really telling us what to do. We have to just make decisions ourselves. So this is a skill that I really want kids to be able to work on from now, is to be able to make decisions, to be able to create things themselves without being constantly given instructions. And that's something that I really try to incorporate, during their learning journey. And again, adding in a coaching element to it also is which I provide obviously to Divine Space clients and also to clients at Fit for Future Formula is helping these individuals realize that they can be master of their own lives instead of being victims of their circumstances. Because many times what can happen is people can just constantly, blame the external for what's happening in their life. Oh, this person is doing this, or my situation right now is like that because XYZ happened. But my goal is really to help them identify that this is your life. You have choice. Whatever is under your control, you can actually change that for yourself. And that's something that I try to incorporate with both set of clients, is to help them realize that they have the power to be the master of their own lives and not to let themselves be the victims of their situations or circumstances.
I love that. That's huge. What a huge difference it makes too when you start taking responsibility for everything in your life, or helping someone do that. I guess is such a big impact.
For sure. It's very fulfilling to help people because I also went through that journey and I feel like how enlightened I felt when and this is a journey. It's not like it happens where we turn on the switch and that's it. Now I'm a master of my life. It constantly happens. We all go through different challenges. So we have to navigate, okay, am I being a victim to the challenge I'm experiencing, or am I trying to be the master of my life and seeing, okay, how can I use this challenge as an opportunity and grow? So it's just been very fulfilling to help people understand that and help them work on it so they can, take control of their lives and also live a happier life.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I get that. I feel the same way. um, well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I hope that we can stay in touch and maybe have another follow up show and make kind of a check in and see how you're doing. Maybe later in the year or something like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to thank you for the opportunity. And yes, I am, obviously open to doing another session and sharing more insights. But thank you so much for having me here today with you.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Um, and if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what the what's the best way? You mentioned the website.
Yeah, so I think the best way for now, I think they could obviously go to the website, but because I think LinkedIn would be the most easiest way, they can just reach out to me on LinkedIn, message me directly, and I'll be happy to help.